everybody, how are we all doing? I hope having a good weekend so far. Today is Friday the 20th of March 2014. First off, if you got to see the solar eclipse here in the UK and other parts of Europe, how awesome was it? Very cloudy here in Newcastle, so I didn't really get to see it much, but I was watching it live on TV as well and it looked spectacular. So and I think the last time we got a solar eclipse going over the UK was back in 1999. Good Lord, was it that long ago? Oh wow, 16 years ago. That is crazy. Anyway, apologies for the delay in this video, purely because my girlfriend's not been well of late, so I've been pretty much looking after her, and I've also been working from home, so so I do apologise that this review is a bit late. But anyway, yes, The Offer. That was an interesting episode. Didn't feel like a really good episode like we have had before on Arrow previously, especially when you look at what we got on The Flash this week. I mean, Out of Time was just superb. If you haven't watched my review of that, bearing in mind it is full of spoilers, please do check it out. Wow, that's all I can say. But yeah, Arrow, totally different story. A new villain has arrived in town by the name of Murmur. This villain actually belongs to the world of the Flash, but given the fact that the Flash is more colourful and fun in a sense, they figured that Murmur was a bit too dark for that particular world, so they decided to bring him into Arrow instead. And he works for Arrow, he really does work. And speaking of a little Smallville connection, the actor who plays Murmur was the same guy that played the very first Meteor Freak in the pilot episode of Smallville. So you have to go way back to 2001 to find out that's where he first appeared on, in the DC Comics sort of universe. So yeah, that was I couldn't believe it. It was Jeremy Creek, I think, was the guy that he played in that pilot episode. Very awesome as well. We'll never forget that one, will we? So yeah, now obviously The Offer pretty much kicks off from the last cliffhanger episode that we saw. Obviously, what it means is Ra's al Ghul has basically said to Oliver, I want you to take over my place as the head of the Demon, the leader of the League of Assassins, this, that and the other. And when I did my review for Nanda Parbat, I did say that how Oliver has pretty much taken over the role essentially as Bruce Wayne in this sense, because if you've read the Batman comics, you'll know that Ra's al Ghul has always been after Bruce Wayne to take over his legacy as the head of the Demon, the League of Shadows leader, League of Assassins, whatever you want to call it. But obviously, he does work. It also works for Oliver in that sense, because Green Arrow has been around since 1941. So he is very early character, just like Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman as well. So I mean, even the Flash as well was also created in 1941, I believe, as well. So Arrow and the Flash pretty much created roughly around the same time. So yeah, it's one of those situations where I know people are saying, oh, Green Arrow is like, a poor man's Batman. Well, in essence, Oliver Queen is a billionaire, as is Bruce Wayne, so how does that state that Oliver's a poor man? But yeah, so to have him in this role where he's going to want to, whether or not he decides to take over as the leader of the League of Assassins, it is pretty much all Batman verse in a sense, but the producers are bringing it into Arrow, and it works. It really does work. At the end of the day, I don't have a problem with that, because I feel it works just as good for Oliver as it will do for Bruce Wayne. So yeah, there's no qualms with me in that area. So all that aside, Ra's lets Oliver go because Oliver decides that he doesn't want to become the head of the Demon. So Ra's basically says, fine, you're free to go. Malcolm and Diggle can also be taken with you, so you're all set free. But as we know, Ra's just doesn't let you go just like that. He doesn't let you go very lightly. And throughout the episode, I was thinking to myself, there's something that Ra's is going to do, because there's no way he's just let Oliver go free like that. No chance. And Oliver now thinks that's it. It's all over and done with, because when he returns to Starling City, he then lets Nyssa go as well. Bearing in mind that Nyssa and Thea almost came to blows, but that was stopped momentarily by Laurel and Roy. Thea does feel guilty for what happened, for killing Sarah, and she does blame herself, even though Malcolm was the one that pushed her to it, essentially. And she was hoping that Malcolm would be killed by Raz. That didn't happen. So imagine her feelings when Malcolm is lying there on her sofa in her apartment. Oliver's standing there as well, pretty much saying, well, yeah, Raz wasn't going to kill him because we've kind of made a deal, but couldn't tell anybody what that deal is. The only person that Oliver could tell was Diggle. And Diggle was shocked that even Oliver was actually considering, because at one point Oliver does actually then does say to Diggle, maybe I should be the new Ra's al Ghul, maybe I should take over. I love how they subtly mention the Lazarus Pit without actually saying the words Lazarus Pits, or Lazarus Pit rather. But we do see something in the form of the Lazarus Pit in this episode. But yeah, it was very lightly touched. We see it working its magic on Raz at one point as well. So whilst they don't actually mention Lazarus Pit, we do see it in action. So yeah, very, very interesting. So what else have we got? So regarding Murmur, obviously, before he gets apprehended, when Oliver takes down the thugs who are working for him, and he hands them to Captain Lance. Captain obviously is no longer wants to be in league with the Arrow, because the fact that Sarah died and the Arrow didn't tell him. So he's very pissed off with him and just doesn't want to have anything to do with him ever again. And I think this is now going to be the point of where Lance is going to try and find out more about who the Arrow is. The reason I say that, because if you saw the Paley Fest sizzle reel for Arrow, you would have noticed that there was a particular point in that reel where Captain Lance and his men are in the lair, are in the Arrow cave, turns to Oliver and says, "I got you now, you son of a bitch." And there's Oliver and his gang coming down the stairs, and they're thinking, oh, what the fuck we are done for. So yeah, I think he may find out whether or not what we saw in that reel was supposedly him finding, what is really going on with Oliver and his friends is another matter altogether. There was also a bit with Ray Palmer and Felicity, and Oliver seeing those two together as well. We also see Roy and Thea have a moment together as well, which I thought was more of a, I don't know how you would put it, but you look at Thea and think, this girl has gone through a lot. She's gone through a lot. She has already lost her father, as in Robert. She has lost her mother as well. And at the same time, Malcolm's come into her life, and turns out he's a twisted bastard. And she also killed Sarah. She has gone through a huge amount. I mean, in just the space of about 2-3, well, I say in the space of 2-3 years, but if we count the fact that Oliver went missing for 5 years, in the space of about 7 to 8 years, Thea has gone through a lot. And it's difficult for her to process everything that is happening. She is a changed person. She's a totally different person now. But on the flip side of that, what I want to say about Roy is I hope that in season 4 we start to see more of his personal change, because in the comics he loses his arm. He loses his right arm, and that's how he then took on the name Arsenal, because he got given a prosthetic bionic arm that pretty much could do almost anything for him. So whether or not that's going to happen in this series, in the show altogether, I don't know, but I would like to see that happen. I would like to see Roy go through some serious trials and tribulations that will take him down that path of where you know, he eventually loses his arm, and who knows, maybe we'll be introduced to one Cheshire as well. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Flashbacks to Hong Kong with Oliver and Masio's little boy. They're being chased by, I'm hoping, guessing, Waller's men, and when they're running away, Oliver runs into someone that he did not expect to see, and I didn't expect to see either. Did anybody expect to see this person? I'm not going to say who that person is, but let's just say they better have a good explanation as to why this person is around. Okay? Really have a good explanation. I want to know what the explanation is, and I'm hoping that... Actually, no, I'm not even going to say anything more on that side of things. But yes, as I say, eventually, even though Murmur gets taken into custody, something happens at the end of this episode that I did not expect to see, and it goes back to what I said earlier about Raz not letting Oliver go lightly. Okay, so yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how all that unfolds, so looking forward to it anyway. But that's it from me. Thank you all very much for watching. It's the first day of spring. I know in parts of America it doesn't feel like it because you guys still have snow. What the F is going on over there? My days, this is really bad. You guys have had snow for months now. It's just wrong. So, but seriously, happy first day of spring. If you did get to see the eclipse as well, good on you. And I'll see you all very soon. Bye.